What if I told you the person responsible for saving your life never wore a stethoscope? They never prescribed you a medication. They never performed a surgery. What if the most important person in medicine doesn't wear a white coat? They wear numbers. I'm a biostatistician. It's a fancy way of saying I design clinical research, I collect the data, I analyze that data. What if I told you that the most important things are behind the scenes happening in that area? Silently, invisibly. We are the ones who ask, what's the question? What's the population? Will this work? Is it safe? Most importantly, can you trust it? We don't work in the forefront. We're not loud. We're not there making things happen in front of patients. We work in data sets. We do computer programming. We model risks when the stakes are life and death. So it's not glamorous. It's not in the spotlight, but it is powerful. Like all great inventions, the power of biostatistics didn't happen overnight. We started off with tallying outbreaks, maybe in a notebook, on paper, to now where we have AI-driven diagnostics. Innovation in medicine always depended on those who are willing to step out and to look at the data differently, to be able to notice those trends, those actions, and to analyze and see what they see from that. Now, I didn't learn these skills in a government lab. I didn't learn them in a Silicon Valley office. I learned them here at Juniata College. As we celebrate 150 years of the college, we have to think about this small liberal arts school in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And it gave me that mindset to ask the hard questions that I do today and not to flinch at the answers. Back in the late 80s and 90s, we didn't call it biostatistics. In fact, I think the course was called biometry when I took it here at Juniata College. We didn't talk about roles in clinical trials. We didn't talk about the professions that you could explore. But it started with that one single class. In that class, we learned to think. We learned to ask those hard questions. But we focused on that critical thinking most, and it was really that scientific integrity and evidence before ego, what we were taught. And that's what Juniata has always taught. Juniata has been innovating from time through thinking, and not just technology, but new ways. From its founding, Juniata was challenged and challenged our students to blend disciplines, to innovate not only in labs, but how we think, how we lead, and how we serve. So I didn't grow up loving numbers. In fact, I hated them, and I hated math. I love to dance. I love the free form of music and of the body. And I also liked marching to the beat of my own drum. But here at Juniata, those pieces fell into place. They all came together and assembled for me into the love of what I do today. And I think it's because the faculty didn't teach facts. They gave us stories, they gave us experiences, and most of all, curiosity. Numbers aren't cold. Numbers tell stories if you listen to them. That skill took me from this quiet campus to places I never imagined throughout the world. I was able to use those skills in biostatistics and clinical trials to go and study epidemics, pandemics in Africa and Asia. I was able to blend those skills to refine our battlefield tactics in Operation Enduring Freedom, and to continue looking for cancer treatments, cures, organ transplantation developments, and cardiovascular disease. So I decide and help determine what drugs go forward, what drugs have to stop, when we need more follow-up information, and I use the word no a lot. And that's never a popular word. But every time I carry that Juniata compass that I have with me in those skill sets and in what I do, and that compass has what's true, what's ethical, and what's possible. So tonight's theme, innovation through time, could easily describe both Juniata and the field of biostatistics and clinical trials. We started in 1876 for our school. Medical treatment was just guesswork back then. We moved into the early 1900s. Public health was emerging. We were starting to be able to define, detect, and analyze data and measure health outcomes. We get into World War II, and now we're thinking about treatments and efficacy and being able to define those patterns a lot clearer. All the while Juniata is developing their science programs, ethics, and how we look at the world. Getting into the 1980s and 90s, now we start seeing computing power. We can be able to do modeling, we have simulations, and then of course, I came to Juniata in those 80s and 90s. And then we lead into the 2020s. And here we've been challenged with a lot of things, and especially with COVID, our pandemic, and emerging vaccines that we had to develop, going into now our AI developments as well as personalized medicine. Juniata has been a part of all of that. A small college ahead of its time, because it teaches not what to think, but how to think. Still, when people think of medicine, they picture in their minds nurses, doctors, people in lab coats. They don't picture people like me, people a little bit behind the scenes, designing, discussing, analyzing, and someone who doesn't touch patients, but yet we touch millions with what we do. But that's the point of this talk. The most powerful people in medicine aren't wearing the white coats, and they aren't always the most visible. They're the ones asking uncomfortable questions and trusting the answers, even when they're messy. Now, let me tell you, when I get asked, what do I do? And I say I'm a biostatistician, they're like, oh, you crunch numbers. Yes, I'm behind a computer crunching numbers, but it's more. I am counting things. I'm counting things of lives saved, safety items, adverse events that we count. I'm counting all of those things behind the scenes, and more importantly, I'm asking the right questions, because numbers matter. But courage matters more. Because to be a biostatistician, you have to have that courage. You have to have that courage to say no. You have to have that courage to say stop. You have to have that courage to say you're wrong. But that's leadership. That's integrity. And that's what Juniata trained me to do. So as Juniata enters the next 150 years, I hope we continue to champion the quiet leaders, the analysts, the question askers, the people who bring truth to innovation even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not loud and not noticeable. Because trusting in medicine doesn't start with a prescription pad, it starts with a question. And someone skilled to design and analyze and collect the data to help answer that question. So as we look forward, innovation won't come from machines, it won't come from models, it's going to come from humans behind all of those things. For the next generation at Juniata, I hope these are students who see the world not as it is, but as it could be. So next time you hear of a biostatistician, think about that cure, think about the medicine behind that. Somewhere behind that scenes, we designed it, we helped run those numbers. They didn't wear a coat, they wore clarity, and they carried a torch lit right here at Juniata, where innovation through time helps shape the future of medicine and the future of Juniata College.